with me as I share mindful eating tips. So last time I did an eat with me while I share French mindful eating tips video, you guys really enjoyed it. You can check that one out right here. Hopefully this will give you some insight on how I eat my meals in a mindful way, and you can eat your meal as you watch this video and we learn about mindful eating. So today I'm eating some ratatouille, some veggies with sauce that is not homemade. It's from a can, but a very good can, a very delicious ratatouille. Then I'm eating some eggs. I have 2 scrambled eggs and some rice. And then I also have a slice of rye bread and some water. And I'm gonna be sharing some more mindful eating tips as I enjoy this lunch. Lunches are usually when I have very simple meals. I try to get a source of carbs, a source of veggies, and a source of protein. Or if I have leftovers, I do that as well. But usually it's very easy, and that's why I like getting veggies that are jarred or canned or frozen, so that it's easier, because cutting up and cooking the veggies is what takes a very long time. An important thing to keep in mind in order to eat mindfully is that you should not be waiting more than 30 minutes after you start feeling hunger to eat. So you should be cooking as soon as you start to feel the slightest amount of hunger, even before, if possible, and you should be eating pretty soon after, because it's very hard to eat mindfully when you're so ravenous, when you're absolutely starving. It's going to be very hard to focus on taking the time to eat and taking the time to chew and to focus on your hunger and fullness cues, because you're just going to want to eat everything super quickly. And then once you're done eating, you're not going to be full or satisfied until you're probably going to eat past your fullness. What's also going to happen if you wait too long to eat when you're very hungry, you're just going to end up eating whatever you kind of find. It's going to be much harder to cook meals that are actually balanced, because you're going to be just so hungry that you're going to go for super quick energy, super quick fuel, and that's not going to be a bunch of whole foods, let's be honest. This is so good, by the way. Super simple yet delicious. And if you want some ideas for simple recipes that are balanced and taste good, you can check out my cookbook. I'll put the link in the description. Also, for those of you who already bought my cookbook, I'm thinking of adding maybe a couple recipes to it free of charge, and then maybe later on I'll increase the price, but because I have a few recipes that I've been currently eating on repeat that are not in the cookbook, so let me know if you would like that. So another thing you need to be careful of is to actually be hungry when you eat your meals. Ideally, you should only eat when you start to get hungry. You shouldn't rely on external cues. Now, I know that it's not always super realistic, but if it's time to eat and you're not hungry, if you're able to push back your meal a little bit, that's ideal. Wait till you get at least some type of hunger signal. But if you can't do that, I would recommend having something a little bit lighter, because you don't want to overload your body with food when it's not giving you hunger signals. Now, I do want to point out that it's okay sometimes to acknowledge your practical hunger, and your practical hunger would be eating in a situation, even if you're not feeling physically full, if you're not experiencing physical hunger, but it's still a good idea to eat, because you know that you're not going to get another opportunity to eat in like an hour, 2 hours, or like whenever you might get hungry. So an example would be, you're not hungry right now, but you have a meeting coming up, and that meeting is going to last 3 hours, and you're probably going to get hungry in the meeting, but you're not going to be able to eat during it. Then it's okay in that situation. It's totally fine to honor your practical hunger and to eat for practical reasons, even if you're not feeling physical hunger. Physical hunger is not the only type of hunger that exists. There are 4 types of hunger: physical hunger, emotional hunger, those are the ones that are mainly talked about, practical hunger that I just talked about, and then there's also like the craving hunger or taste hunger. And all of them are interesting to listen to. So if you want a video on these different types of hunger, let me know. I did make an Instagram post about it, so follow me on Instagram So this one may be pretty obvious, but if you're trying to eat mindfully, it's important to eat without distractions. That's like ideal, best case scenario. However, I've come to see that it's not the most realistic thing to ask people, because we're used to being constantly bombarded by distractions, notifications, with our phones, being stimulated all the time, or we just don't have the time. We don't take the time, but technically, we don't have the time to eat and not do something else while we eat. I mean, here I am filming this video while I'm eating, but I'm still eating mindfully. And how am I doing that? So the first thing is that I ate my first couple of bites without distraction. I just focused on what I was eating before I started talking. And also what I'm doing, maybe you can notice, like as I'm talking, I'm kind of putting the food on my fork, I'm getting it ready, but whenever I eat, I'm really focusing on what I'm eating. Really taking it in, really taking the time to chew. I love tasting all the different flavors, which is why I like to put all the different types of food on my fork at the same time. I also do this with my last few bites. I like to have them fully conscious, and periodically throughout the meal, it's also really good to check in with yourself. So I like to check in with myself. I stop talking, take a little break. I'm like, okay, how am I feeling? Am I still hungry? Currently, I've eaten maybe a third of my meal, maybe even less. I'm still hungry. This is tasting good. This is enjoyable to eat. We're all good. We can keep going. Another thing I recommend is if you're going to be eating with distractions, make sure that the distractions are not too intense. Like, don't watch your favorite movie, thriller, plot twisty movie that you have to really pay attention to while you eat, because it's going to be hard to pay attention to your food if you do that. Watch something that is not engaging intellectually. Like, I love watching Love is Blind while I eat, for instance. So I can have this kind of nice background noise, but it's not completely removing me from my first experience, which is my meal. And if I am to be watching something that's a little bit more engaging, if like something happens on the screen, it's like a super important scene or something, I'm just gonna put my fork down, watch that, and then get back to my food. And then I do the same for food sometimes. I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on the food right now and tune out of the movie for a second. If you feel like you're eating too fast, one thing I would recommend is that you give yourself a set time to finish your meal. Let's say you give yourself 20 minutes to eat. And when I say eat, I mean the moment where you're like sitting down, starting your meal to the moment where you're finished with your meal, not taking into account the time to cook. But like 20 minutes sitting down, that's already pretty good. Give yourself, okay, these 20 minutes, at the end of these 20 minutes, I'm gonna be finished. I mean, that's at least. You can go over that. But you have to do whatever it takes to get to those 20 minutes. So you can't just eat your food in 3 minutes and then wait for 17 minutes. So you have to kind of drag out everything. So if you have even like a little timer at first to kind of help you, and you're like, okay, it takes me this long to eat a bite. Maybe I can either take more time to chew it, or I can have bigger pauses in between my meals, or I can have foods on my plate that take a little bit longer to eat so that I'm not wolfing down everything in a couple seconds. Whatever it takes, you just need to get to that end of the timer. Because the thing is, if you're rushing through meals, it's impossible to listen to your hunger cues. Your body needs some time to get the signal that you're actually eating and that the food has reached your stomach. So you need to give it some time, and in order to do that, you need to take your time to eat, or else you're going to finish your meal, you're still going to be hungry, and it's going to be very hard to stop when you're actually full. This is why some people will say, oh, eat until you're only 80% full, but I don't really like the intention behind that. I would much rather you take enough time to eat so that you're able to eat until you're completely full, but your complete satisfaction and your complete fullness doesn't change, because like when you're done, And it's not something that's going to change in 20 minutes because you've given yourself enough time to actually enjoy the meal. When you finish your meal as well, you need to listen to your fullness. So you don't have to finish your plate if you're not hungry anymore. You don't have to eat everything. It goes both ways. You need to listen to your hunger, but also you need to listen to your fullness. By now, I'm pretty good at putting exactly the amount of food I want on my plate, but sometimes I get it wrong because, we're not robots, and I will leave the food if I feel like there's too much and I'm not hungry anymore. I have no problem doing that. It's super important to note that if you don't listen to your hunger, then you're not going to be able to listen to your fullness. Because if you're always pushing back your meal time, you're like, oh wait, I'm gonna wait, and you're starving, then of course you're not going to be able to stop when you're full. It's impossible. You have to listen to your hunger first, and then you'll be able to listen to your fullness. And don't hesitate to check out my video on the hunger fullness scale that I'm going to put right here or in the description. And finally, as I finish up here, I'm going to tell you that you need to pay attention to what satisfies you in a meal. Is it the amount of food you're eating, the quality of the food you're eating, the type of food you're eating, the variety in what you're eating? Usually it's a mix of all of them, but everybody will have different preferences and things that satisfy them more or less. And it's important that you figure out what satisfies you the most, so that's something you can really pay attention to be satisfied by your meals. So it's really funny for this to happen in this video, but it shows you that we aren't perfect. And as I was filming my video, I had something come up and I wasn't able to film myself eating my dessert, which was eating these clementines, which I actually had like 15 minutes after my meal because I was interrupted. But that's okay. So I ate these 2 clementines much more quickly than I would have liked, in a way that wasn't mindful, but I still ate them, and sometimes that's what happens. It's okay. That's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.